Hey, bubbling, coming in, crushing this art. All right, we're back at it, and we're talking about time and how the crystals and gems you make or that are filled by your spirit look like they're beyond time, but really go through time. Um, and how, like, I can see, I don't even know his name. I'm trying to talk about stuff that I don't even know the names about. Which is funny. But I've just been thinking about the concept of philosophers, right? Deep philosophers that end up becoming martyrs. Um, and that energy. Like, we know in the past there was a time where a certain level of understanding or individuation of reason over truth, like the patterns of nature, like aligning them or understanding them in a certain way, right? I've been going through the patterns so many times. Now you get the ring around, right? You know the gist and that you can take anywhere, right? And so now you can always put your spin anytime you get lost in whatever nature that now you've have your own reason over, right? Your own reason, like yeah. So when we think about then that energy of saying something to where now you have enough weight or enough shine or enough brightness behind it to where it literally causes a mass a, attention around your defeat or your adversarial energy. This really puts you in a space of one, you have weight, you have a crystal, you have a legacy. um, so you have like a crystal that is now tuning you into reality. And you have um, yeah. So anyway, now that you are looking like you're embedding your reason over truth, and it's at a point where you got so much weight or influence to where now it's really affecting the current. This is where I think that you could see a spiritual shift in what happens and how, since we don't understand the micro or the macro, and there are miracles and stuff like this, potentially when someone, like, we had that point where, yeah, like there's one philosopher coming to my mind, but I forget his name. Um, when someone is willing to die and is giving their life for spreading their message, right, and they know that that's going to happen and they know that that's the way, then it's what happens beyond time, what happens through their frequency or their spirit is their light is fully connected and it has that faith. Like, obviously, or why would they put all their cards in that, right? Um, so now I think it's possible that like that is the tuning thing. And so when people talk about weird manifestation things or mandala effects or stuff like this, I think that that's the tuning of the body, like really affecting space time. So now when that happens, that philosopher probably changed the world. Even though like he did in our time, right? But like we're like reminiscing and coming back in history on how he died and stuff like this. And now we're coming to a place where we're trying to get our individual reason back. So when 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 that happens, all I'm seeing is that through karma, there are the spirits that vibe with the negative and they vibe with killing and damning this person, right? So now you have the person who's gonna die, like the negative part of flesh, the negative spirit, not necessarily negative, right? Just incarnating the negative possibility and shift is that this spirit's gonna die and and yeah, everyone's gonna get what they want, basically, you know. But that's what they wanted, you know. They wanted to kill him, and then there's the point. I feel like the shift where people realize what's going on and what this is over, and there's enough of in the micro, like things to spark a shift in the macro to where now, luckily he survived, right, and he's actually living, inspiring people. And created like an actual world up under him through Dreamwork Makes the Team Work and a sort of yeah, yeah, and an inspiring of his individual art over truth, you know, and that way. And so I think what this really tells in that history or our karma or what that we find ourselves in really does tell us about us. So what I'm saying is that when we look at the fact that he died, right, this tells us about what we did. Because I like if you give any credence to like this is just a theory, I don't know, it's just a fun thought, but if you give any credence to the 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 fact that we don't understand the quantum and we don't understand the macro and we don't understand the mind, um, and that these things can operate in mysterious ways, then yeah, it's just interesting to think about. So now we have this time where these like prophetic spirits, right, really end up creating their world, but the only people that can follow them and align with them there in reality and what can become true is who can actually receive that, right? So they did die in this world because we couldn't receive that at that time, and that's what time we're in, you know. But that's why I think that people could potentially, through evolution and through really exalting themselves, like finding their own Jesus, their own name, they could they could they can really start changing their world and tuning into their frequency. And what will happen is it'll look like all of a sudden they start leaving, or like things in their life start changing almost really bizarrely, right? And they're like, whoa, they start feeling like they're surfing. Um, and what will happen potentially is that we, if we're stuck, we'll start seeing more people in our life staying back till the point where we're literally finding ourselves in worlds where there's bodies and times that now are more incarnate over um, different things, right? And we literally see spirits moving in different directions, though in the same family. So you could see how um, like if you have someone being held back by their family, right? It's like all of a sudden their family now changes their ways only because that guy put enough work into it to really shine that, to where he's proven through lifetimes he's going to be about that, to where eventually it feels like his family wasn't really about that at all. But it's almost like to the point where they could have never been about that and truly didn't like that, but through the cracks now those spirits diverge, and you have this point where now he's in a different spiritual place and working through the same body or the same vessel is the world or reality, but coming through a completely different place spiritually. And so now when you go to work with the world, it comes out in a whole new way. Yeah. So yeah, and that would just go into like reception and attraction and manifestation and all these things, to where yeah, like if because going back to the philosopher that died for what they believe in, like through time we start to create our spirit in legacy, right? If we truly can do what we're passionate about, right? What we're artistic about and creative about, and don't sell all our energy to organizations, right? So now, if we truly see ourselves developing that over times, and there's a sense of realness or reincarnation, and that this is just how I move. Now all of a sudden you find yourselves lifetimes in, or like through space, there's lifetimes you would have devoted to that, because no matter what, you're willing to die for that, right? Like that philosopher that died for whatever. And this is why I believe he could have woken up, or like not woken up, but transitioned into a space where luckily he didn't get executed and he was willing to, you know, versus the space that we're living in where he did, because through like generational struggle, like, and what we're still dealing with karmically as a people, what we're dealing with now. So but why he could have woken up in that space is because he's literally given his all to it, to where now he's going to, no matter in what lifetime or what space, gonna dive into that in the grand miraculous way of the subatomic and the grand being timeless, that he's built that already. in like, you know what I mean? If you look in the picture of time, so now his gem, like what he has now, his legacy, because it already has weight, acts as a portal into the grand what that connects to throughout time, and now he can literally time travel, literally, like it's like the PPP thing, like patience, prioritization, and proactivity, right? It's that true patience, like um, yeah, he achieved that because he was prioritizing um, prioritizing his time for his spirit, right? He was always doing what was gaining influence and spreading the message, and um, and yeah, proactively, and that created a sense of patience to where he was willing to die for it, right? That zen that you can die for, and that's how you know that you're that patience, how you're time traveling, and you're truly building or working a legacy that is like crystalline and can start to incarnate frequencies that will develop things we call like manifestation or XYZ, and the third having to deal with miraculous situations in our lives, right? So, so yeah, it's deep. Bubbling, Citra, Beach, out.